that are investing in walking and cycling because it's good for business, it's good for the economy. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'd think from listening to the last contribution from Jerry Brownlee that this is a bill that is all about sort of fiscal rectitude. It's sensible. It's just making the right amount of money necessary to continue the government's sensible program of road building. Well, nothing, Mr. Chairman, could be further from the truth, because this is not only an illegitimate tax grab, as we've already said, but it's only one of a suite of greedy, voracious, money-grubbing efforts that this government and this minister are making to fund its out-of-control and bloated motorway building program. So we're talking today about a tax that's going to raise the petrol excise, as it says in Part 1, 3 cents every year for the next 3 years. And if members have got the regulatory impact statements in front of them, they'll see on page 4 quite an interesting outline of alternative funding options that officials recommended the Minister and Cabinet to consider. And it sets out a number of possible ways that the New Zealand Transport Agency could get the funding it needs to continue this out-of-control motorway building program that we've been talking about. It includes tolling, it includes long-term borrowing, of course we know it includes public-private partnerships, which is how the government is going to do the Transmission Gully project at an cost of an extra $2.3 billion to the taxpayer. $2.3 billion on top of the project cost, just so Jerry Brownlee can try to get Transmission Gully up and running before the government changes. So they not only chose the option of this tax grab through the petrol excise, they chose half a dozen other options as well to throw more and more taxpayer cash at this motorway building program. So Jerry Brownlee walks into a pie shop and he sees smoked fish pie, a kumara pie, a meat pie and a cheese pie. He doesn't just choose the smoked fish pie because he likes that one the best. He chooses all the pies in the shop. Every single option has been chosen by this government to throw more and more taxpayer cash at this out-of-control motorway building program. So we've seen, Sir, PPPs, the Minister asked the officials to go away and come back with a project that could experiment with the PPP model, and they've decided to go ahead with it at the cost of an additional $2.3 billion. What an extraordinary waste. The Land Transport Management Amendment Bill is going to clear the way for more PPPs and more tolling, sir, and the government is giving itself the power which it's never had before, to do long-term borrowing for these kinds of motorway transport projects. So we're talking about the petrol excise tax, the fact that they've chosen one particular way in this bill to refill the coffers that have been so depleted by this motorway building program. But it's not the only way, and we need to be aware that the government's getting extra money from all over the place in order to front-load the motorway building program to get as many of these projects, these gold-plated projects, up and running, like the Puhoi to Wellsford Holiday Highway, like the Kapiti Expressway. It is desperate to get all these projects up and running, to rev up the bulldozers, sign the contracts before a Labour Green government comes to office at the end of 2014. We are not against all these funding options, Mr. Chairman. We are not against the idea of, for instance, long-term borrowing. It makes sense to borrow long-term to fund major infrastructure projects that will benefit future generations. But we are utterly opposed to a measure like this bill, sir, that is pouring taxpayer cash into a transport program that is unbalanced, it's unwise, it is going to saddle future generations with more and more debt simply in order to fund the building of white elephant motorway projects that were hand-picked by this government, as previous colleagues have said, were handpicked as part of a political strategy to get National elected in 2008. These projects have never been subjected to Treasury's Better Business guidelines. Under this minister and his predecessor, the transport sector has been some kind of financial Bermuda Triangle. Vast wheelbarrow loads of cash have been poured into it with not the slightest bit of financial accountability that we would expect from every other part of the public sector, Mr Chairman.
I'm going to call Richard Prosser.
I'm pleased to rise to take a call on this. The committee stages of this bill